thrilled to have this man sitting right next to me here in studio in the International Swimming Hall of Fame, U.S. Olympic Hall of Fame, a 9-time gold medalist attending the 4th annual Doha Goals Forum here in Los Angeles this weekend, also taking part in the Special Olympics that's here in Los Angeles this weekend. Mark Spitz, an honor to have you here, sir.
Well, thank you.
Good to have you here.
You bet.
So the Special Olympics is something that you've been involved with, I imagine, for decades, correct?
I have been, yes, I have. And it's a great organization. They stand for a lot of positive thinking with what they do. And
you're part of this 4th annual Doha Goals Forum. The goals are an abbreviation for Gathering of All Leaders in Sport. What is this about, this forum?
Well, this is the second time I've actually participated in it. I was in the second one and now the fourth. It has people that are from political backgrounds. They have dignitaries that are known in certain fields of sport as being experts. They have national governing bodies, the heads of national governing bodies that participate in these forums, talk about rules, fair play, and what have you. And they bring athletes and they bring all these people together, and we discuss in a forum, sort of an atmosphere, topics that we discuss that are important to the agenda that has been set for the actual, this case, the 4th time. I'm involved with a particular situation, which is how does Doha relate to California sports and how can this migrate itself into being successful in that country? Because we've had so many successful people come from the state of California, for an example, and although we probably are about the 4th or 5th or 6th largest economy in the world, you know, how can that help develop sports in another world? And so that's part of what I'm discussing there, and it's really great that we've got a bunch of different topics that we discuss about, you know, women in sports, and
sure.
With Muslim nations, women have a problem with, like, they can't put a swimsuit on in the conventional way that a competitive woman would compete in the Olympic Games. But in the last Olympic Games, we had several girls compete, you know. I think it was in shooting and also in track and field. And, you know, it was great that they're moving in a forward direction, religious-wise, to break those boundaries and let them participate.
I'm here with Mark Spitz on the Rich Eisen Show. Other speakers include Carl Lewis, with whom you are tied for most golds all time in the U.S. Olympic history, and also Michael Phelps. I would love to, for your second most, because Phelps has got 18. What are your thoughts on Michael Phelps and what he's gone through and his return to Olympic status? Apparently, he's gonna participate next Olympics.
Well, I didn't think when he said he was going to retire, he was actually going to retire, and I think it's great for not only swimming, but I think it's great for the Olympic movement, and I'm sure that the television networks love it because swimming takes up one whole full week. I don't think he's going to compete in as many events. I wouldn't imagine at his age, but I think that he'll be successful in a couple of events and probably win a couple gold medals, individual events and also in relay competition. It's real simple for me right now, currently, to know what his, because I get asked about what his record is, and it's always just double what I did. You know, he was in twice as many Olympic Games. He has twice as many gold medals, twice as many silver medals, and twice as many bronze medals. But the interesting thing about Michael is that what I did was in 2 Olympics. Although he was in 4 Olympics, what he did was actually only in 3, because the first Olympics, he was only 15 and a half years old, and he made it to the finals in 1 event, but he didn't medal. So he did all of that in actually just 3 Olympics, so it's quite amazing.
Right, you've got 11 medals overall, including 7 events you competed in the 72 Olympics in Munich, and set world records in all 7. Were you realizing the fame that you were achieving as you were doing it, and the success that you were achieving as you were doing it, Mark?
I didn't realize the impact of what and how I would be perceived after the fact. I mean, I was the world record holder in events that I was competing in, all 7 of them, and I thought that if it was betting on a horse that I'd be, you know, have the better odds of winning. But I still had to go in and do it one day at a time for basically the whole 8 days. I swam every day but one. So I didn't realize that the impact it was going to have, and then it was thrust into the Israeli tragedy, and so I became the triumph and the tragedy. So it became not only a sports event, but it became a worldwide news event. And so that sort of like catapulted the Olympics into a whole different strata as we know it today. So we're still bearing the brunts from that unfortunate situation where we have security issues and a bunch of other things, which the Olympic movement has done really well at safeguarding the athletes and the press and the spectators.
You're referring to the terrorism massacre. 11 members of the Israeli Olympic team were killed by Palestinian terrorists. Did you fear for your life back then?
Swimming was over on that day. I swam from a Monday to a Monday, and then this thing happened from Monday night into Tuesday morning. I had a press conference that I was going to go to at 9 o'clock in the morning, and when I got there, everybody was asking about what was going on at the Olympic Village. Well, history now shows that they had already killed 2 athletes, and then the events that happened that evening where they killed the rest of them. So by then, I was already in London. I had left.
So you were already gone.
Yeah, I was actually going back to dental school. Part of the arrangement was when I went swimming, dental school started about a week and a half before my first event. And so that the next day after I competed, which was on a Tuesday, I was going to leave back up to Frankfurt and then take off and go back to Indianapolis to go to dental school. That sort of didn't happen. I got sidetracked and ended up arriving in Sacramento, which was my hometown, and Ronald Reagan, who was the governor at the time, met me at the airport. And it was supposed to be a secret as when I was arriving, but he knew.
So Ronald Reagan met you at the airport?
Actually, we became pretty good friends. I mean, I was at his inaugurations. He lived down the block. When he retired from being the president and lived in Bel Air, I used to walk in the neighborhood. Every once in a while, when I got back in my car or when I drove into the garage, sometimes he would just be standing right there talking to me.
So you'd just be driving home.
That's right.
And there's the retired leader of the free world.
Yeah, funny story was I'd say, well, Mr. President, he says, you can call me Ron. And I said, no, Mr. President. And I said, I have a question to ask you. I said, you're in these great-looking track outfit. I said, but how come you have wingtips on? Mm-hmm. You walk in these great, dress shoes. He says, well, it's like this. When my feet hurt, I know it's time to get back in the limo and go home. I mean, he was a really neat guy.
That's a metric by which you can figure out how to go.
Yeah, that's right. You can judge sports by that.
So, retiring at age 22, is that because you had a plan to go to dental school? I mean, why?
Yeah, well, first of all, they didn't have professional sports from the Olympics. In 1988, they changed the rules where you can compete in the Olympics and also be a professional. That's when the Dream Team came onto the Olympic Games and all that stuff. So, and that's why Michael Phelps continues to swim, for an example, because it's in his best interest, not only for himself, but his sponsors, that he maintains, his winning ways. Mm-hmm. For me, if I'd taken a coach ticket and tried to fly standby and pocket $25, I would have I'd had gold medals taken away from me.
Right.
So the rules were different. So I'd been in 2 Olympic Games, and I had to go on with life. So I turned professional, but there really wasn't any professionalism other than I got some endorsements. I licensed my name, and I had enough money to go to dental school.
Well, and the 2 Olympic athletes of your generation that everybody was fascinated by and were just skyrocketed to fame, you and Bruce Jenner. Yeah. And you met Bruce in Munich.
Well, I never met Bruce in Munich, although he competed in the decathlon then. But I met Bruce when he was in Montreal when he won his gold medals. And I've been a friend of Bruce since I met him. We, as a matter of fact, had the same agent, and we traveled together on numerous times in speaking engagements. Mm-hmm. And I was asked a lot of times when I was in an event, is that Bruce Jenner over there? And I go, yes, it is. He says, well, what's with him? I says, why don't you just go over and talk to him? He's very friendly, And of course, obviously, we've talking about Bruce quite a bit.
Sure, I know. Have you kept in touch with Caitlyn Jenner? Have you spoken?
I reached out. I reached out when I knew about the interview, and I reached out to him and I texted him. I didn't, because I was one of a million people that probably texted him, and I haven't heard back from him. But I've got all his numbers, and I can reach him anytime. I mean, last time I was with him was about a year and a half ago at some events, and so. I'm happy for him that he's been able to. Everybody deserves to be who they want to be without any prejudice or any sort of foregone conclusions that, there's somebody that is different. He's different in as much as what we look at today, but he's bringing an awareness to transgenders, and I think it's a positive thing in a lot of respects. And it's really funny. Can you imagine? Nobody's ever commented on this. Could you imagine how much better of an athlete he would have been had he not been able to have to actually go through this torment?
That he was so tormented, and the fact that he was able to perform.
That's right. Although then that might have been the driving force of why he was so successful, keeping this internalized and whatever. But that's a whole other discussion. But, we'll see. We'll see how this plays out. I'm positive for him.
Mark Spitz is here on the Rich Eisen Show. When we come back, I want to hit you on this topic that we've been talking about here, about youth sports and sort of like the Oprah giving away a car. You get a trophy, you get a trophy, you get a trophy. I've got Mark Spitz, at Mark Spitz USA. Again, the annual Doha Goals Forum in Los Angeles takes place Saturday through Monday. And the Special Olympics, the social global movement it has become, it begins in Los Angeles this Saturday.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.